Today's episode is going to be focused on competing. Sam is a recently promoted blue belt. Heavyweight, right?
Well, deemed ultra heavyweight in jiu-jitsu, so yeah.
Ultra heavyweight, and how heavy are you right about now?
I'm around 107 kilograms. So I think the limit's it varies. So for some competitions it's over 97.5 and others it's over 100 kilograms.
I see.
But there's basically no weight cap, so it's just anything above that.
After that?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay. And what's the heaviest person you've competed against?
I don't know, to be fair, but I know when I first did ASW, obviously you were there.
Yeah.
Lenny is obviously a big guy. I don't know how much he weighs, but he must have a fair bit of weight behind him. So that's the thing. I think obviously I could try and potentially cut down and be below 97. I probably could do it if I wanted to. Because obviously then that would put me at the top of the weight category, whereas obviously this category that I'm currently in, there is kind of no limit, so I'm probably towards the bottom end of that with some people, but I think it varies from what I've competed in so far. You can, especially I think at the lower belts, there's a lot of lads who are probably overweight and shouldn't really be in that category, and their cardio tends to let them down, so even if they're initially quite strong or do initially got weight behind them, it does soon seem to kind of fade and drop off, and then that's where I'll be able to take over at that point, really.
So yeah, I think Lenny's like a little bit of a well-known Jits player. They put him with Sam. I think the
it's meant to be random, isn't it? But it didn't feel very random.
yeah. I think they saw the second biggest guy and chucked him with Lenny, and then what happened in that one?
To be fair, I ended up getting submitted. I'd like to have another match with him, to be fair, because obviously you learn different things, and he was a nice fella from what the interaction I did have with him, but it was a bit of a surprise when I first walked out, because obviously I walked out and then you don't know who you're up against at that point. And obviously I'd seen him kind of around the gym as we'd arrived, and I thought, oh, he must be one of the coaches or something. He just had that look about him, and then when he walked out to who I was going against, I was like, oh fuck, here we go. But no, it was
he's a big guy, isn't he?
And then we know I made some mistakes. I tried to wrestle with him because that's normally what I do. To be fair, there's not been many times in our gym where I am the smaller person, so it was weird being the smaller person in that kind of role, and threw me off a little bit. But no, he did a nice takedown, just snapped me down, and then it was just a game from there, really trying to get out of that. I ended up getting into half guard when I was stuck in turtle for a while, but when I got into half guard, I basically got an arm caught across my body, and he was aware of that, and his coach was shouting to him, so I just couldn't get it free. So eventually it was like a head and arm choke. I just could not bridge him enough to be able to get that arm free to really work from there, so it is what it is.
So, competing, you're a recently promoted blue belt. I'm interested in trying to sort out my frame of mind and my preparation for future competitions, because I want to compete. I want to be a competitor. First of all, how long have you been training for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
A year at some point this month. So I started last July when the beginners course began. So roughly coming up to a year now, yeah.
Who introduced you to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
It's a weird one, to be fair. Initially, I gained an interest for I didn't know it to be Jiu-Jitsu as such, but I did karate about 13 years ago, roughly, something like that, for a period of time. And there was the odd occasion during that we'd do some kind of rolling, but it wasn't themed rolling. It was just no one really knew what they were doing, to be fair, because it wasn't something we trained.
Yeah.
And then I kind of took a step from karate. I don't know, I enjoyed the sparring side of things, but it wasn't something they focused on. It was a lot of kata, which is kind of going through a routine and stuff, and didn't necessarily see how that was applicable. And I don't know, it just kind of fell out. I've love for it, really. Plus, I also wanted to kind of focus on weight training and kind of going into bodybuilding more. So what I did, I think, roughly about 2-3 months before I joined Trident, I did a private in Next Gen in Birkenhead, because one of the lads I know in the gym that I train in terms of weight training, he'd started and go jiu-jitsu, and I think from there I ended up joining Trident on the next beginners course after that. There was a bit of a gap in between because I was doing the white collar kind of charity boxing fight. So we did that first, and once that had finished, I was literally straight onto the beginners course. I think it was a couple of days after.
How did that go?
It was good. For anyone who was ever considering it, like, it was a fantastic experience, and it was in the Liverpool, in the Olympia. So, well, not the best of venues, but there was quite a lot of people in there, so it generally like felt like quite a big thing, and you had walkout music and stuff. So it was a good event. And
8 weeks training.
Yeah.
8 weeks. Free training.
Yeah.
All for charity.
Yeah, free, as long as obviously you get, you know, your sponsors and stuff like that, and then you get people to pay for tickets, which is easy enough because it's quite a big thing, and I think most people would be quite proud if you went and did something like that. So
yeah, no,
I enjoyed the experience. It was really good. And obviously, you know, it's one of those, it depends. You get out of it what you put into it, really, I think. Mm-hmm. You know, if you do extra sessions, you do more cardio than just the 2 sessions you get for free, it makes a difference. And yeah, I think that's the difference between people winning and losing, really. It's that mindset, isn't it, that there's always going to be someone who's working harder than you. You
started almost a year ago, more or less a year ago,
yeah.
This month, right? Mm-hmm. On the beginner's course. And then have you been consistent the whole time?
Yeah, I think I've not really had a period of inconsistency. Well, in terms, I don't even want to say inconsistency. Obviously, the injury's a bit of a pain at the moment, but even still, like, I'm still in training. Even if I can't roll to the same capacity, yeah, I'm still in just doing the drills. Or
how many times a week do you get in the gym?
So generally speaking, my week looks like I'll tend to get in at least 4 jiu-jitsu sessions. Well, 4 days in a week. On a Sunday, for example, that might be leg locks in the morning, then beginners, and then rolling. So, you know, it's not necessarily 4 sessions, but yeah, I'll get in 4 days a week to jiu-jitsu, and then I'll weight train it probably about 3 times a week.
Is it like a routine every single week? You do it on the same days?
No, it just depends kind of where I'm at with work, where I'm at with recovery, if I got stuff going on. I'm not like set in stone structure. I'll just vary it, but I tend to aim for 4 jiu-jitsu sessions a week, and then weight training as well. You've
also been big into bodybuilding, as I understand, right? Mm-hmm. I've seen the pictures. I've seen you looking lean. Like, how heavy were you lean?
I think the lowest I got down to was roughly like 85 kilograms.
85 kg?
Yeah.
Okay, but still big, right?
I wouldn't say necessarily big back like at that point, because I was arguably maybe a little bit over dieted, but at 85 kilograms, like, I literally had like no fat on me whatsoever.
Yeah, like,
which is weird, because at the time you look at yourself and think, oh, there's still some fat there. When I look back at photos now, I haven't come away from it. Yeah, there was literally nothing. Like,
there's nothing. Yeah, I think it's quite easy to develop some like dysmorphia when you're all about the physique, and
particularly when you're dieting for a competition. It's like you'd always think you're fat, and then you look at photos and think, oh, they're horrendous, and then you'll come away from it like a couple of weeks after the prep's finished, the competition's done. You're like, why was I saying that? Like,
how long were you a bodybuilder?
So I only actually got up on a stage once, and that was in 2019.
Where did you place on that one?
Second. So it's a decent result. Was happy with that, and you know, when I look back, I'm proud that I did it. Would I do another one? Probably not. No, because the actual process of dieting was horrific. Yeah.
Okay. So you do supplementary weight training now. Mm-hmm. Is that Jits specific?
No, it's not optimal for Jits at all, but it's what I enjoy, to be honest.
What you enjoy?
Still pretty much like how I'd train as a bodybuilder, or, you know, that kind of thing, that focus.
Yeah.
But no, it's not optimal for Jits, but you do feel it does translate into jiu-jitsu in some ways.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you've got someone who's a similar level of ability in terms of technique, the strength does make a difference at that point.
Strength, yeah, it's keeping you strong, right?
Yeah.
I've been thinking, because you always start on your feet in competition, mm-hmm. right? So if you're confident that you can take your opponent down and you end up on top, I mean, that's where you want to be in competition, right? On top.
I think particularly when you move up in the weight classes, yeah. You know, with lower weight classes, when it's being like competitions, you'll tend to see the lower weight classes are more happy to shoot in and go for takedowns, I think, and, you know, they've got a lot of speed behind them.
Yeah.
And plus, I think, you know, if you do end up on the bottom, it's not the end of the world in a lower weight class. But if you end on the bottom and you're, you know, 110 key, 130 key, something like that, it's quite, you know, hard work to get someone off you there, and it's going to drain your energy. So mm-hmm. you do see that people are quite reluctant to shoot in, and a lot of some of my matches as well have been like pretty much 4 minutes stood up, just because someone's not really confident in a takedown.
Yeah.
You're just kind of waiting for someone to either make a mistake or slip, or you see that quite a lot.
On my very first match, Robbie Williams, who was on the last show, he came to roll. He gripped me on a collar tie, and I shit my pants because it was so like intense, and so I was thinking I wanted to go for a double leg and all that, but what I did was I just tried to pull guard straight away, but he stayed standing, and I was just on the floor with him basically on top of me.
Yeah.
And then after that experience in the first tournament I did, after that I said to myself that, right, I'm not going to pull guard. I'm going to wrestle on my feet, and I had the double leg, and I just wanted to see what happens. But what I wasn't going to do was sit to guard and let them be on top of me. I had 4 opponents. My first 2 opponents, after about 30 seconds, sat to guard, which I was like, yes, pushed them over straight away, started grabbing their legs and everything. My third opponent that I lost against, he managed to get like an arm lock on me while we were stood up, which I hadn't experienced before, and turned me around, tried to trip me up, but then he pulled me into guard with my arm locked like that. Eventually went for a double arm bar, which I had to fight really hard to get out of. And then my fourth opponent, I managed to get a double leg, but he caught me in a guillotine, but I had my legs on the other side.
So you managed to get out. Yeah.
So I managed to get out, and then I was on top. I just held him there the whole match because I was knackered. You're big into competing, I assume. Okay, you've entered a fair few competitions. Can you take us briefly through your competition history in Jits?
Yeah, so obviously, as you know, the first one that I did was ASW, which is just like an intergrapple, really, isn't it? So one match, essentially.
The very first time you competed?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's cool.
That was the very first one I'd done.
Yeah.
Then, I think a couple of weeks after that, or a week after that or something, I went to do BJJ 24/7. Me and Reese Rosedale went down. Basically, the BJJ 24/7s, it's quite good, to be fair, because they've got a couple of categories that you can enter. So they've got like, obviously you've got your gi and no gi, which you always have, but you've got sub only for no gi and gi, and you've also got like your absolute as well as just standard no gi. So my first match was just standard no gi. And I say it was one of those where neither of us obviously was comfortable shooting for a takedown at all, so it ended up just being basically like, I think it was 4 minutes. We were basically just trying to go back and forth, not really trying to shoot in or anything like that, just trying to, I don't know, wrestle as such, but obviously a poor standard. Yeah. Both obviously full of nerves, I think both first competition. And then eventually, like, the referee, I think was, a minute or 30 seconds, about a minute to go, I think, roughly. It was like, obviously you want to see something, you've got a chance to make a difference here. So I kind of got a bit overzealous, and I think I ended up basically off balancing myself, and then I ended up in turtle, but it was classed as a takedown, so I lost on 2 points. So basically I had obviously ASW, and in that particular match, kind of back-to-back losses.
Yeah.
And at that point I was a bit like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, like I might just go home now, even though I had like 2 other matches to go. So this was in no-gi, so I was just, I don't know, I had dropped at that point, so I had to go and kind of take myself off to the warm-up mat and just sit there and just collect my thoughts and think, just fuck it, let's just go out there for the next match. But obviously the silver medal doesn't mean much when you've only lost 1 match and you've not won anything, so...
Yes.
Yeah, so it was a bit down, to be fair. It was one of those, I had to drop a little bit, but I had to go and have a word with myself, and then I had sub-only no-gi. I ended up winning that in the triangle. Don't think I'd ever caught anyone in the triangle in the gym, but it just kind of ended up that way, just fell into it, so I was quite happy with that, built a bit more confidence back up. Then I went into the absolute, and the absolute's a funny one, because obviously, it was white and blue belt absolute, so obviously you've got the, I was a white belt and a fairly, relatively new white belt, to be fair, must have been about 6 months in or something like that. Yeah. I'd say you could be going up against blue belts, but, I think the advantages with the absolute is that, I suppose, if you, as we said before, if you've got someone who's, of a similar ability, if I've got like 30 pounds on them, the chances are that's going to make, you're going to have an advantage with that.
Yeah.
So, went into that, won the first match by straight ankle, even though I didn't really know what I was actually doing there. I just grabbed it and
pull.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, it wasn't textbook by any means, but won the first match. Then went into the second match, and 2/3 of the second guy, like, I think I ended up seeing on Instagram a couple of days later, he competed the day before in a different competition, and I think he took like double gold, and I think he must have competed loads of times, so he was good, but he was considerably lighter than me. So the match actually was like, it went to a decision. There was no point scored. Well, it was technically 1-1, but I think that was just because we were both classed as stalling, and he ended up getting the decision, which I don't know. It was, to be fair, he was more skilled than me, but I think the decision was questionable. I didn't feel like he'd necessarily won, but either way, it was very close.
Yeah.
And as I say, he was much more obviously experienced than me, and you know, he's obviously really good at what he does because he must win medals all the time. I've seen him at other competitions as well since. But yeah, you know, it was a bit disappointing, but I didn't feel as bad as that one, especially when I seen like the day later that he won double gold somewhere else. So I thought, fair enough.
Yeah.
And then obviously went to role models with yourself.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, role models is probably the one I enjoy the most, and I don't know if that's because I've won every match that I've ever done in role models, but no, I really enjoyed that. Took obviously the no-gi win there. Had 2 matches, both won. First match was probably one of my most memorable, even though not much particularly happened for the first kind of like 3.5 minutes. Managed to get that fireman's carry that Ant was made up with, so still got that little snippet somewhere. But yeah, I enjoyed that. Won the final as well, which the lad seemed to be good. He won a couple of matches before by submission, so to have won that as well was made up with. And I think then it was like, I think that restored me confidence. I think BJJ 24/7 was a bit, because I'd lost a couple of matches, one in ASW and one in BJJ 24/7. But then role models just kind of calmed me a little bit and made me think, no, I'm actually, you know, carry on doing this. You know, you're all right, you enjoy it.
So was there a point where you were like, I might even just stop doing jiu-jitsu?
Don't think I would have stopped jiu-jitsu because I enjoyed it, but I might have stopped competing, because obviously they're 2 different things really. You know, you could just do it as a hobby, and you could just go to the sessions and enjoy them, and you know, you've got no intention of competing. It's just because, you know, it's a nice social environment, you know, good for people's mental health, and you know, good to keep you fit and training. But you know, some people have got no intention of competing, which is perfectly fine. And you know, I think there is a difference between the two. Like when you're in the gym, it almost feels like this little bubble, and you're with your mates, and you know, you feel safe. And then when you go into a competition, you know, you think, oh shit, like we're actually intentionally trying to injure each other here.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different ball game at that point.
You did role models.
Yeah.
Got your confidence back. And then how many competitions have you entered since then?
So including ASW, I've done 6 in total. So 5 tournaments in ASW as well.
5 tournaments ASW.
Went on to All Stars BJJ after role models. 1 straight match, 1 final, just basically a final. It's, you know, it's a bit disappointing, hoping to be more people in, but I think 1 or 2 might have pulled out, which does tend to happen, to be fair. Took gold in that, won by a fair few points. Again, most of the match was stood up wrestling, but eventually I think the guy made a bit of a mistake, slipped, and I managed to take his back and went into mount, and you know, I racked up the points from there really.
Yeah. And
then got a bit cocky because we ended up back in guard, and I tried to pull a straight ankle from there. So, you know, pulled a straight ankle, and he managed to get out of it straight away because it just wasn't in.
Yeah.
And then he scored 2 points for that, which is classed as a reversal, but didn't seem fair because it wasn't like a reversal. It was just I didn't lock it in properly. But
did he end up on top?
Yeah. But it was that was like 10 seconds to go, so it wasn't really an issue anyway. I was just like, I'll just go for it and see what happens. But
yeah.
Did that one, and then I think the next one I did after that, I went to where was it? I think I went to Empire in Leeds. So yeah, it ended up being just 1 match again. I think 2 people dropped out, which I don't know why. I just tends to see it happen. I don't know whether because they do gi in the morning, then realise they're knackered or they're injured or whatever, or they don't want to hang around. So yeah, it ended up being a straight match for the final. Lost on takedown, just 2 points again. It's funny, in the competition, I've never really been like dominated or lost significantly. It's always been like just 2 points on a takedown. Again, the match was stood up for like 4 minutes. The guy was good, to be fair. I hadn't really kind of wrestled with like someone before because he was dead active. Especially for a big lad, I thought I was going to be slow and just allow me to settle into positions, because that's what I was used to, is just settling into things and trying to set up like fireman's carry, or you know, just relaxing into things. And he was very active for hand fighting loads, kind of gripping fingers and stuff, and I wasn't expecting it at all, so it made things more difficult. And then again, we got into like kind of the last minute, and I tried to put weight into him more to drive him backwards, probably a little bit sillily, and he just dropped to the floor. I ended up going over the top of him, and it was his 2 points. But
2 points. So you went over the top of him.
yeah, it's classed as a takedown.
He jumped on top of you after that.
Well, he tried to jump on top of me, but he basically nearly ended up in a omoplata. Managed to just, I had him in that position. He managed to pull his arm out, and then we were on the side of the mat. And it was a bit of a scramble, but because it was on the side of the mat, they restarted it and restarted him in side control, which I think Rob, who was watching, Big Rob, was like, didn't seem right. But it is what it is. Restarted in the centre of mat in side control. Managed to get half guard back within about 5 seconds, but we only had about 10 seconds left. So I was in half guard, and I'm quite confident being in half guard because I can work for deep half and pretty much quite effective with the sweep from there. But just didn't have long enough left, so
lost that one.
Yeah, a bit disappointed with that one. That was quite hard to take because obviously I built up a bit of a winning streak, obviously doing role models, doing all stars, and then to lose, it's a bit like, it was hard to take initially.
I guess you're expecting to win that one.
And not in like an arrogant way, but just more, I expect myself to do well, as opposed to like, I'm going to beat everyone, or I know I'm going to win everything. It's more just, I expect myself to perform well. And then I did role models again.
Yeah.
And won gold again. So
won that.
Yeah, like role models. Role models top list. Just repping them.
Yeah. Nice. Was that the last one you did?
Yeah, I was due to do one last Sunday, but obviously then injured my hamstring, so it's a bit gutted, to be fair, obviously, because I knew the grade was coming up and I wanted to just get as many competitions in as I could. I was probably going into it quite confident. Again, I hadn't come out of role models 2 matches. The second role model was a weird one as well. It didn't feel like I was present. Like, I don't know, like I couldn't remember my matches. Like, if you said like what happened, I wouldn't have a clue. Like, I just kind of zoned out almost.
In a good way?
No,
I
I don't think it was. Something just, I don't know. I don't know, I walked on there and it just didn't feel confident in myself.
Yeah. It
was a weird one. Like, I just felt switched off and I felt like I was just on the defence all the time. I won both matches and won the gold, but I don't know, it was an odd feeling. I don't know why it was like that, but yeah.
Solidify. Let's look at some passes, Sam. Thank you. 30 seconds, Sam. Sam collapsed him down, was crushing for 20 seconds. Scramble. 10 seconds, Sam. Sam, drive him to the mat. 1. Yes.
How do you prepare for a competition? How long before it do you start the preparation?
Honestly, I'm probably the worst person to ask this because I don't.
You don't?
Because I'm always trained anyway, so it's not like anything really changes for me. The only thing I'll do is maybe take two or 3 days off before, depending on how I feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, nothing really changes. Nothing in terms of preparation. I don't do anything specific or drill anything specific. I just think if I don't know what, like a week before, if I don't know what I want to do by now, me learning something on the last week's not going to change anything. So
yeah, I guess because you're a relatively fit person, you work out as well as do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you're consistent. You've been consistent since you started. I guess that's preparation enough, right? I
think so. You obviously we do quite hard rounds, go to mats on a Sunday, and I think the best conditioning and cardio you can do for jiu-jitsu is to do jiu-jitsu, really, and to do it as in an intense environment, and having roles with Big Joe Shields, or
shout out to Joe.
Yeah, he's always a challenge. So and Reese covers a good round, even though he weighs considerably less than me. Like the amount of times he's armbarred me or caught me and things, like
really.
Yeah, he's just so.
I like rolling with Reese as well.
There's always good rounds, and I think you don't necessarily realise the standard of the gym, or how good some of the people are in there until you go to some other gyms and you realise, okay, I stand up quite well.
Night before and the day, how do you manage that? How do you handle that?
Nerves don't kick in till the actual day off. The night before, I always make sure I get a decent sleep as best as I can. I'll eat well the night before, just so that I've got the food in me for the following day, really. I just tend to relax as much as I can in the morning. I don't rush to get to the venue, because there's no point. It's just sitting around for longer then, so I'll just hang off as much as I can. And then, yeah, it's just nothing particularly special. Obviously, drive up to the venue, wherever that may be, some closer, some further away. The last couple of comps I've done, I've took Big Rob with me as well, and the most recent one was with Tom as well, Tom Birchall.
Is that Rob Cunningham?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so can you imagine us two stuck in a car?
Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, no, nothing particular. Like I do, as I say, I do struggle with nerves. Just sometimes I wonder on the day, I think, why am I doing this to myself again? Like, why am I putting myself through this level of stress and like in this position again? Pretty much every comp I do, I think, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
You know, and once the competition's done, and even if it is a loss, you know, I think it was worth it. You know, that's why I've done it, is because of that reward and pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone and putting yourself in those positions. You know, it only benefits you in the long term, really. But yeah, often on the day I think, why the fuck have I done this again? Because it's like the stress, and you know, as I say, there's them nerves all day. And if you've got team matches, you know, the first match is normally you feel a bit more relaxed for the second one. But obviously, you know, with a tournament, if you lose your first match, you're not getting a second match, are you? So,
yeah. So you tend not to eat on the day, just a little bit?
Not really. I'll try and have a small meal in the morning, but that small meal tends to be ends up being half of that a lot of the time, just because I just can't stomach anymore.
Yeah.
And you know, as I say, normally I'm quite, you know, I do like food and I'll get down a fair bit, but just no appetite on the day. Don't tend to worry about it. I might take a Lucozade with me, take plenty of fluid. Yeah. Maybe a banana if I can stomach that at some point. But no, I'll probably go for quite a long period of day not eating, and then obviously compete. It's never really impacted me, to be honest, because you've eaten enough the night before or a couple of days before, so really reality in terms of glycogen stores, there's no issues there. I would say compete, and then obviously once that kind of crash comes, then that's when obviously I'll go home and have plenty to eat at that point, really.
For my last for the tournament, you know, I enjoyed that experience so much. Like, it's such a cool feeling, you know, when you go out on the mat, and like I videoed the whole thing, so I'm watching it all the time, and that, and never been involved with anything like that. So like one-on-one, sort of your mind and body against somebody else, that is just awesome to be able to experience that.
As you say, on the day I'm like, oh, why am I doing this to myself again? And you know, at some points don't necessarily enjoy the experience, but afterwards I'm like, okay, I'm glad I've done it. Do you know, it was worth it. And I think it's just that pressure of, and you know, I know the lads in the gym or Harry or Steve wouldn't expect you to necessarily, there is no pressure to perform. No. But it's just on myself, like, you know, I live for training, to be fair, like that's all I really do. I don't go out, don't drink. Yeah. You know, I don't, you know, it's, so for me it's a big thing, and I want to perform at a high level. And I'm already conscious of the fact, realistically, to be at the level that I'd like to be, I started 20 years too late, so just trying to make the most of the time that, you know, is still left, really. It sounds quite bleak, but you know what I mean? Like, you see obviously the likes of Kai and Shay, who are, you know, young lads and already at an extremely high level. Like, I envy that, but you just got to make the most of what you've got, really, haven't you? Yeah, totally.
Thank you for coming.
No worries.
Shout out to Steve and RJ Chester for letting us use the space, always. Shout out to Trident Martial Arts. Thanks again, man.
No worries.